Darius had mentioned before, the place looks like a jungle. Yeah. Every 10 years, and a growth of 1 foot per year, you see these trees growing 10 feet, and then 20 feet, and then 30 feet when I was there. So if I would go back right now, or you would go back, you would see trees that are now 40 feet tall. Thing is that many years from now, because there's no forestry there, there's no civilization there, it's going to turn literally into some type of jungle, uninhabited, like Darius had mentioned, for many, many years. I have a different figure, which I did some research on. Darius said 15,000 years to 30,000 years. You'll see the figure that I have here at the end of my slideshow. So I'm going to talk with this real quick. And I wonder where Natalie left my... Thank you. Okay, so look what's happening. The fish are getting bigger. That's an exaggeration with a wide-angle lens. Those catfish are about 8 to 12 feet long, where before they were 6 to 8 feet long. So yes, they're growing bigger. The wild horses, which were imported about 100 years ago from Siberia, have come back. There's some Polish name to it, I don't know, and they run wild in Poland, but they have now crossed the border into Belarus and also into the Chernobyl area. Their genes are different, where the chromosomes, where they have 31 or 32, which is different than 32 or 33 from regular modern horses. So these are the primitive horses. Animals are thriving. There's no fishing. No beaver trapping, which then causes the increase of the dams, which then, and the ponds, which bring back the wildlife. Everything from the insects, to the birds, to the mammals and reptiles. And I'm looking to see why that's not okay. So on their own, everything from moose to hawks, bobcats, and badgers. Wild pigs. Now I found out that once the pigs, domesticated pigs, are abandoned, then they turn wild within 1 or 2 generations. So they start using their tusks to dig into the ground and to then look for morsels and mushrooms. When I was in the Pripyat soccer field, and the middle of the soccer field had 20 and 30-foot trees already. So it was weird standing on the 50-yard line, and there's 50-foot trees there. But my guide told me, look how the ground is dug up. That's from the snouts of the wild boars that are then looking for the morsels. Radioactive, of course. The habitat, that's the photograph that I took of the stork. They build their nest in telephone poles, radio towers, as well as then rooftops. The photo that I took there of the beehives, that's something now that we have to consider with the radiation and the pollen that they're bringing back from the radioactive flowers and then the honey. Somebody just told me that they're selling honey there in Belarus. I don't know whether it's radioactive, but there's more wildlife and more insects there. And on the bottom, the wheat fields there, and representing, of course, the Ukrainian flag with the blue sky and the golden grain. The war in 2022, the staging area was in Belarus. And of course, all through Christmas, Putin assured Joe Biden that no, we're doing a military exercise. Okay, the buildup and the buildup and the buildup. No, it's a military exercise. Well, then the invasion came. What they did was dig trenches and fortifications in the exclusion zone. The troops experienced symptoms of radiation exposure. Nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, severe headache, fever, dizziness, disorientation, and weakness. Imagine sending an army to invade a city like Putin did with those symptoms. So within 16 miles of heading south towards Kiev, I'm sure many of those troops had diarrhea in their pants, in their tanks, sitting in their tanks or in their vehicles, and with that nausea, they just did a U-turn and went back to Belarus. These are not my photos, but look what's happened. The catastrophe, the landscape. This is from December 2022, 37 million. It's probably double, triple that amount by now. Here's the problem. Why I won't go back, why the farmers can't go back, why nobody can go back. We got landmines everywhere. They're using dogs to sniff them out. The problem is that the landmines are triggered by weight. So the small animals, the rodents, they can crawl past them. However, it's the heavier animals that then set off the landmines. I'm going to move this up a little bit. Every one of those holes there is a landmine, which was triggered either by a farmer, a tractor, or dropped off. Oh, by the way, this is a safe zone right here, a corridor. And only 2 months ago on Channel 13, they had a program, 100 meters to the one city. And day by day, the Ukrainian troops used this to get to the city, because there were landmines everywhere else. So we also have hunting and noise pollution. Scares off the animals. They run off, as you see the wild boars there, just running off. We have bison there. Forest fires, caused by lightning, first of all, but then also by the explosions, incendiary devices. The problem with that is then you have the smoke taking that radiation up into the air. And it also burns the ground cover, so therefore exposing more of the radioactive dirt, which then dry spell turns into dust, and then the wind carries it away. That's why I don't think it's a good idea where they would have the windmills for energy there, because the wind would just carry that radioactive dust. There's nowhere for the insects and the birds to live, of course. And then you add on top of that the chemical warfare. The Russians aren't shy to use that at all. So back to the gas masks, like I showed you before. New term, ecocide. Do we hold anybody accountable? Any government? Any ruler? This is the dam that was built by the Soviets, and then they decided to bomb it, to flood the land. So that was their form of ecocide, by bombing their own dam. (2023). Thousands of people lost everything, their lives, but it took a huge environmental toll. Flood, much like, of course, a hurricane, typhoon. That's nothing new. Using water to flood an area, that's how, in Netherlands, the Dutch, they protected themselves by releasing the dams from their dikes to stop the enemy. Here's a submerged Russian tank. So many times the assaults from the enemy comes in the winter months when the rivers and lakes are frozen. But whenever they're stopped in their tracks, then once it thaws, then of course here's what happens to them. Right here at the bottom, Louis XIV declared war on the Netherlands in 1672 to seize land. The Dutch opened up their dikes and flooded the country with the French path. The French invasion was stalled and eventually driven back. Nothing new. But here's an aerial view of that land just a year later. All mud. Worthless farmland. But look what has happened only a year or two later. Nature has come back. That's that same flooded area that I showed you before. But look what's coming back. And with the grass, with the plants, with the flowers, come the insects, then come the birds, then come the mammals and the reptiles. That's the good news. Has a long way to go, but that's the way, of course, it should be. So, in conclusion, from the last book of the New Testament, and if you could look up in your Bible, book of Revelations, from St. John, I've highlighted these words in yellow because that relates to the nuclear explosion. And the name of the star is called Wormwood. And many people died of the waters because they were made bitter. I sold 9 of those plants there, which are wormwood, which I found in nursery. I couldn't believe it. I saw some Dusty Miller last year in the nursery, and I asked the lady, I said, "Do you have wormwood?" She says, "Yeah, over here." Wow. So I bought those plants, put them in my ground, and sure enough, they came up this spring, and they multiplied so much, I decided to, of course, share that with you here. That's from St. John Divine. That's what wormwood looks like. But again, in Christian lore, it tells you right there that it was used as a repellent. It's a hardy perennial, silky hairs. That's the English translation of wormwood. Bitter repellent. And these are the photos that I took right outside the one abandoned cottage. So it was everywhere. Chernobyl is the Ukrainian word for wormwood. Chernobyl. Wow. So finish off with my quick video. This is all done in my 8-hour tour of Chernobyl the first year that I went there. coming. Hope to see you in 10 years for the 50th. Let's not forget.